Welcome back, Anxious Gamers, to another video game-filled episode. We are your hosts. I'm Kris.
And I'm Josh.
We're going to kick things off with some gaming news, a quick mental health segment, what we're currently playing this week, and then our main topic, the seventh generation of gaming. We lived through it. We saw it. We're going to talk about what we love and hated about it, obviously. And, Josh, is your body ready, or is your body Reggie?
My body is Reggie.
My body is ready.
Yes, Reggie. We love you.
Oh my gosh.
We'll talk about this in a minute.
And for those of you young whippersnappers that are watching us, even though I've looked at our YouTube demographics and most of you are older like us, the seventh generation was the Xbox 360, the PS3, the Wii, and the Nintendo DS. So right around, what was that, the 2002?
PSP.
2003? Oh, and the PSP. That was like the 2000.
We hate PlayStation. No, I'm kidding.
It was the early 2000s era.
Yeah.
Because I think the DS came out in 04.
04, yeah. And I think the PSP was right close to
Right around
it,
that. 05, 06 maybe.
Yeah. Let's kick things off with some gaming news. Two pretty big game announcements this morning. First off, Red Dead Redemption coming to Switch and PS4, which that's a double-edged sword.
Yes, because I was hoping for a full like PS5 remaster, and we didn't get that.
I think
it's also $50, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think the game, I still don't think it looks bad. I never played Red Dead or Red Dead 2. I mean, I've watched gameplay of it, but I think for me, it would be like, oh, cool, I can play this game on my Switch on the go. But at the same time, I definitely see this has been rumored for quite some time now, and you would think Rockstar would have at least put a little bit more effort into it.
They're calling it a conversion, not a remaster.
So is it just mainly changes in lighting, frame rate?
Nothing.
Whoa.
Okay, so the original was written for PS3, which had a notoriously weird architecture. And actually, I think it was only on the PS3, wasn't it?
It was on 360.
Was it on 360?
My friend, I take it back. I played a little bit of Undead Nightmare.
Oh,
because I bought it for PS3 and he bought it for 360, and side by side, the PS3 version looked horrible compared to what.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a day-night difference.
So in any case, that generation, and this is a good timing for this topic of talking about that generation of consoles, the code hadn't yet hit the what's called the x86 architecture, which is what computers run on. Or hold on, is it x86 and x64? I think
something.
Anyways, the architecture that computers run on, like the PS3 had its own custom CPU. The Xbox was probably closer, but still had some weird things about it. And so all of the code that was written wasn't easily ported. And I guess it just took them this long to finally put in the effort to even get it over to PS4 and Switch. Because the PS4, like, there's obviously some things that are specific to it, but it's close enough that, like, if I were to make something in Unreal Engine, I can just export to PS4.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well...
So, yeah, there's no changes at all. It's the exact same game, ported over to work.
Yeah.
Converted.
Well, hey, August 17th, Red Dead Redemption comes out for PS4 and Switch. No Xbox or PC. Which, to be fair, you can backwards compatible play it on Xbox, but
right. And I think that was their plan, because you can do the same with PS4 and PS5. It is kind of a weird target, though.
It is. I think it should have just been announced for Switch, honestly. Throwing PS4 in there doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It is, yeah. Let's talk about this next game release, Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been rumors about it, but officially confirmed, or maybe unofficially confirmed. But anyways, it's coming out in November, and it's the first time that you will be able to transfer guns and everything else from the last game, which was Modern Warfare 2.
Wow.
Oh, and they added back in slide canceling.
Oh,
So
cool.
in the last couple, you could slide, but you couldn't stop sliding if somebody started shooting at you or something. Now you can cancel it.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we got some Call of Duty coming in November. We have tomorrow a Pokemon Presents. The rumors here are we're going to get a Legends Arceus 2, which I really hope that'll happen.
I didn't play the first one.
Oh, it was great. Honestly, so I liked Scarlet and Violet a lot, but Arceus really, in my opinion, felt a lot different. I mean, it was a whole different concept on Pokemon, so it felt a lot more fluid too. And I was playing a little bit of it today, just in anticipation for tomorrow, but definitely excited about that. And that looks like that's all of the gaming news that we have for you all.
Slow week.
Yeah, slow week. Let's jump into real quick this mental health segment. I'd like to talk about sensory overload today, something I struggle with. And if you guys are listening, pay extra close attention for the next 2 minutes. I found a really good article through Sensory Friendly Solutions that talks about identifying triggers when you are having sensory overload attacks or panic attacks. And something that was really beneficial in this article that helped me when I was seeking out professional help, not health. I wish I could just buy professional help. Is identifying the triggers that cause your overloads, but not avoiding them, working around them. So kind of becoming their friend, which is very hard to do. So my hobby outside of music is doing this podcast and gaming. I mean, obviously I have a family and stuff, but we don't talk about them on here. I'm just kidding. And it got to a point where I stopped gaming because I was getting so overwhelmed with how graphics were changing and certain FPSs and certain colors in games. Even with Breath of the Wild, I was having a hard time with so much of the cell shading. It was just triggering certain things and making me feel nervous and anxious. So I'd stop gaming. I would just quit. I'd put the controller up. But when I sought out help and got medicated, my doctor and my wife, who's an occupational therapist, said, "Hey, you have to still game because it's something you love. So find a way to work around it and work on that trigger." So years later, I got the help. I worked on some exercises and stuff. And recently, I played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart because one of my other friends got a PS5. And I had a huge overload panic attack because that game has so much going on with the no loading screens, the graphics, and I love the game. But what I did is I worked. I knew it was a trigger. I knew what it was about to do. So I took a break. I drank some water. I paced a little bit, took a couple breaths, and I was back in the game. So read this article because this article really explains some very good key points if you are suffering from this and want to keep gaming or doing a certain hobby that you like that you can't do. Well, read this article because you can beat around the bush and eventually you will conquer what you're going through. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Josh, or you want to talk about some video games?
No. It's a good tip.
Good tip. Yeah.
Good tip.
All right.
Now let's see if you can use it to work around playing in VR. I'm gonna get you there one day. I'm gonna make you have 17 panic attacks in a row. We're gonna work through it. We're just gonna call it exposure therapy.
We'll do one eye at a time.
All right, let's talk about some video games.
Yeah, all right, Josh. I see you've been playing just a couple. I've been playing just a couple as well this week. It's been a busy week, so talk about what you've been playing.
Yeah, for those of you who've been on our channel, obviously I've been playing the closed beta for Palia. It's good. There was some speculation. Oh, it's the WoW killer or whatever. I don't think so. It's a very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different type of game. You have no health bar. There's no skills or the way that the game is built. It's not. You can't just sit and play it for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like you run out of things to do. You got to wait on your crops. You got to wait on whatever you're crafting to get done. You can only talk to all the villagers so much, and you can only give them one gift per in real life day. Even though in the game, I think a day is probably around 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
But at most, I can play it for 45 minutes, an hour at a time, and then I'll exit out, go do other stuff, and then I'll just check in, 2-3 times a day.
That's about what I usually, 30 minutes maybe. I try to get an hour of gaming in a day, but that's a good pace. I've enjoyed your gameplay, by the way. It's good to
Have you been watching it?
Yeah.
All right.
Of course. Yeah. Got to get those views somehow. No, I'm kidding. And Animal Crossing?
And Animal Crossing. Yeah. My 6-year-old decided to take an interest in it. He can read now, which is weird, but I still have to help him with some of the words. But yeah, so I've been co-playing Animal Crossing with him.
I haven't been playing too much. I will add one more game to the list that I started today. I've been off and on with this game. It's an interesting game. But first off, Tears of the Kingdom. I finished the Gerudo dungeon. I am now in Hyrule Castle. So very nice. Very, very fun. Pokemon Legends Arceus, just still playing through that. Love that game. And then I started playing Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I can definitely see why people don't like it. I think
that I like it sounded very middle ground.
I've tried. So the game's been out, the remaster or whatever. THQ Nordic took over and did it, which they're responsible for Darksiders. It's hard because obviously playing Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom to Skyrim, other games, and then that. It feels, but this is what I like about it. So I've always loved, we've talked about Fable and how much I don't like Fable. If you like Fable, I like you, but I don't like the game. But I will say, I do like the feel of Fable, how the characters move, that kind of slower, very smooth. That was just the Xbox in general when the game came out. This game plays like Fable, but it scraps the quirkiness and the weird humor side. There is some humor, but I am enjoying it. It feels. It came out on 360. It came out on PS3. Don't know. So it has that 7th gen vibe to it. I am having fun with it though. I keep going back to it. It's one of those games where I go back to it over and over again, and I then realize I like the game. So that's what I've been playing this week. All right.
Nice. I do have to add one more that I forgot about. Hot Wheels Unleashed.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that game.
Yeah, with Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 coming out, we were sitting around. I think this was on Saturday. Kids wanted to play something, and I was like, okay, well, let's just go check out the store. I saw the summer sale on the PlayStation Store was still going, so I think $20 for the deluxe edition that has like all the Batman levels, the Looney Tunes levels, all of that, and it really is just a fun arcade racer.
I've seen really good reviews on it, and it looks good too.
Yeah, it's really cool. All the cars are so highly detailed, and they have like loot box kind of things, but you open it up and there's a Hot Wheels car in there, and it's cool to see like, oh, we have that in the kids' room. And so they're all the real world cars, and like you're racing next to the Mystery Machine and the Batmobile, and this giant monster truck, and then the Oscar Mayer hot dog mobile, or the Wienermobile.
Let's talk about that summer sale on PlayStation. It's ridiculous. I got on there, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, the whole package, $20, or it's like $19.53.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think I missed that. I have to go buy that.
Yeah.
Because I have not played Ghost of Tsushima yet.
It's a good game. It is on the
So I hear.
subscription service too.
Oh,
so
it's
you
on
can-
Plus?
Mhm.
Okay, then I'll just do that.
But yeah, no, really, really good sell going on there. Let's move on to our main topic, the 7th generation of gaming. So, what console started this gen for you?
The 360. Well, it was kind of a combo. I didn't own a PS3,
Mm-hmm.
but my brother-in-law did. I think they had just gotten married. He had a PS3, and so I'll talk about that. But the Xbox 360 was the one that really kicked all that off for me.
Mine would be the DS. I had a DS, but after the DS, the 360. That was a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
No. DS, Wii, then 360.
Nice.
That's how it went, and then a PS3 later on. But so out of the generation, the 360 isn't my favorite as much as I loved that machine. I mean, I went through two of them with the Red
Well,
Ring.
Yeah. That does kind of knock some points off there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually never had that problem, not once.
But yeah, some of them were hit or miss. But I mean, I played that system probably just as much as I did my GameCube as a kid. It was just, and honestly, I think the 360 was Microsoft's highest point ever, despite the Red Ring.
Yeah.
That is the last console that they made that I actually wanted every game that came out.
I mean, Halo 3, Gears of War, Forza. That was when Forza started, was on the 360, right?
You had Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
You had Fable. They remade Fable 1, and then you had Fable 2, Fable 3, which at that time I was kind of into Fable. You had the Orange Box with Half-Life 2, Team Fortress. I mean, we can go on and on and on.
It was
Perfect.
Almost the whole Valve library was on there.
Yeah, and then you had, if you had a hard drive, you could do backwards compatibility with OG Xbox games. It was just a huge time for Xbox. And then PlayStation 3, super sleek system.
The weird Spider-Man logo.
Yeah. We've kind of talked about this before. But, I mean, at that time, if you got the original PS3, you could play PS1, PS2, PS3. You could...
and if I remember right, the original PS3 actually had basically the chip for the PS2 in it.
Yes.
Which is how it could do backwards compatibility.
Mm-hmm. And you also had a Blu-ray player, which was nice.
It was the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market.
Yeah.
Oh, and that does bring up HD DVD versus Blu-ray.
Yeah. I remember, I think 360 you could watch a DVD, but you had to have a separate attachment for a Blu-ray player.
You had to have the separate attachment for HD DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So the 360 never did Blu-ray.
Yeah, never did. Okay,
that was
Xbox One could do Blu-ray.
Yeah, because by that point, HD DVD had lost. So HD DVD was Microsoft's, large capacity disc, and Blu-ray was Sony's.
Yeah, and then it was head to head with 360 and PS3. PS3, you had God of War. Last of Us did come to PS3, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one. GTA 5 was also on there.
Yeah, GTA 5. You had Resistance, Killzone.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Such good games. Yeah, I remember, because I gamed on a CRT even on the 360. The 360 had that component cable, so it was the expanded, instead of RGB, it had, I think it was like the 5-wire.
Yeah, it had 5 on there.
Yeah, but it's still, I think it went up to like 720 or something.
Yeah, a bunch of weird weird gadgets with both of those systems.
Yeah.
PlayStation 3 was a little less. 360 it's almost Nintendo at this point. Where it's like, oh my god,
with the hard drives, the DVD attachment.
Yeah, the hard drives, the DVD
the weird
attachments,
cables,
the keyboard that could pop into your controller.
Oh, I used to love that thing.
The headset, the little.
You can buy it for the PS5 controller now, and I assume there's one for.
I still think they make them. Yeah,
they do.
And then outside of the handheld market, I mean, we all know about the Nintendo DS and the PSP, both very successful handheld systems, which we'll kind of dive into those with some funny stories. But when I'm thinking 7th generation, I mean, obviously Wii, PS3, 360. I mean, that was the first time I wanted all three systems, because I loved Resistance, I loved Halo, and I loved what Wii was doing. It was just a whole...
It was super weird.
Super weird thing. But it was catchy, and it had great games. The Wii, I mean, you had all the Metroid Primes. You had Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Smash Brawl, Animal Crossing. Then you had the Virtual Console as well. So you could go on, and that was my first real, connecting to the internet and buying something.
And we talked about that last episode with the Mario beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, hitting the brick. And you also had a bunch of really oddball ports or games, like Okami was on there that utilized
Resident Evil 4 with motion controls.
That was so cool. That was the coolest. And a lot of people still prefer that version, which is hilarious. You also had the Resident Evil House of the Dead styles, Umbrella Corporation and Dark Side Chronicles. Castlevania.
Were those the rail shooters?
Yes, they're a lot of fun. It's all generic games. Castlevania had a fighting game, Castlevania Judgment, which I almost bought today because I still have a Wii, and I almost got that game. It's a horrible game, but the soundtrack's good, and it's Castlevania characters beating each other up. Let's go. How do you feel about 7th gen? Do you think it was the pinnacle of gaming in general? Or do you think it was your favorite era of gaming? How do you feel about it?
I'm actually a pretty big fan of current era. Right now with the PS5, the Switch, not so much Xbox, but I love what they're doing with cloud gaming and the fact that I can play all Xbox games on my computer.
Yeah.
So in a way, still Xbox, because Xbox Game Pass is amazing. The games specifically are what made that era, though. All of the franchises we have now, all of the big ones, all started during 7th gen. And we already listed a lot of these out, but even Assassin's Creed started back then. I mean, Red Dead was on the PS3.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Nintendo already had those franchises, but the 7th gen was when Nintendo really started thinking outside of the box of creativity, and that's when they started to go on their own planet. So they're on Pluto.
Yeah, because that was the first time a console wasn't just box control.
Yeah, because I mean, Nintendo, if you think about it, play with power. Super NES, Super Nintendo up, it was competitor, and GameCube was a powerful system to compete.
Yeah.
It just was gimmicky because it's Nintendo. Lots of great games, innovation. I am gonna 100% agree with you. This generation, so what, we're in 9th gen?
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. Is my favorite. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Switch, me, is not this gen, whatever. It's here. Switch 2 will probably be here to throw into the 9th gen, but I will say this generation is the first since the 7th gen where I have all three systems. Now, I don't have a PS5, but I do have a PlayStation that can play a majority of what's on PS5. So.
It's we're finally getting to a point where I don't know, I guess they realize there needs to be some creativity. I was honestly surprised that Modern Warfare 3 got announced, because Activision was supposed to be taking a step back and slowing down on the games. And they still might do that. Same thing with Assassin's Creed. Everybody's getting burnt out on all these franchises it started. So you're starting to see some newer ones pop up. Yeah, for 3 generations now, we've basically had just continuations of what started on the PS3, the 360, and I mean, we still see there was some new things that popped up, like Rayman, Rabbids really got big during the Wii era, and now we have Mario and Rabbids.
Yeah,
like even those
I
franchises
think
are still around.
All 3 companies did a really good job in the 7th gen, but now, and we've talked about this multiple times, where outside of hardware, it's kind of difficult for. I truly think Nintendo's put themselves in a unique spot. Hardware, they could improve on. Online, they can improve on. And yes, some games they could do a little bit better on. But it is hard to see outside of like hardware and applications and all this stuff that PlayStation and Xbox do that is creative with games.
Yeah.
So I will say I still think PlayStation has solid first-party games. I mean, I really enjoyed Ghosts. I enjoyed what I played of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't played a game that runs that smooth and seamlessly with no loading or anything. But I ask myself all the time, is this a game that I'm really going to come back to? Or did it truly impact me? And it's...
Yeah, I feel that a lot with PlayStation. They're absolutely great games. Fantastic. Uncharted is a series. Actually, anything Naughty Dog makes,
Yeah.
I tend to come back to. But it's all starting to feel kind of samey. They're all very much in the same vein of first person, heavy story, great acting, great voice acting and all that. But I don't know. There was something about 7th gen that just had a lot of fun games.
Yeah, and even prior to that, I mean, I remember getting a PlayStation 1 and having it right beside my N64 and playing it just as much as my N64 because they both felt so different. The controller, the fact that JRPGs really took I mean, they were on Nintendo, but they really hit a different mark on the PlayStation. And
not the Xbox, and we've talked about that.
Which, to be fair, Microsoft is trying. They are trying to get more JRPGs. But also, too, I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of some of the newer games getting announced are not coming to Xbox. They haven't had any... I'll have to make a list. Maybe I'll turn that into something. But, less Xbox I'm starting to notice, which is really weird. Like the weird. Fantasy, or not Fantasy Star, Star Ocean 2 is not coming to Xbox, the remake.
Is it PlayStation and Switch? Or
PlayStation and Switch.
That's so weird. I mean, it's kind of like the Red Dead thing. It's PlayStation and Switch.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's this whole buyout going on or I don't know. It's drama. But let's talk about some really crazy things that happened during this generation. So first off, Wii with motion control. How is your response to that? Playing it for the first time or seeing Reggie, the man, you know?
Up there with his nunchuck and Wiimote.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, it felt really... I was still pretty young. I remember seeing it, though, and just being like, what is this? And I was glad that's why Skyward Sword is not so much my favorite. There were a few games where I wanted like full motion, but Zelda was one of those ones where I wanted to press buttons.
Yeah. I agree.
Now I've really gotten into motion aiming with the bow, but that's about it.
I
use that a lot.
I can't stand motion aiming, controlling, none of that. Now, the Skyward Sword remake on Switch remaster did fine with it for me when I played with the Pro controller.
See, I tried that, and something about to move the camera having to press, it was ZL or ZR, one of the two, to move it around. I I don't know. I couldn't get used to it.
Mm-hmm. That was a big complaint a lot of people had. And I mean, the game, they didn't have enough buttons on the on the controller, so I understand why they had to do it. I completed it and enjoyed it and was finally happy because I mean, that Zelda really changed the formula too.
Mm-hmm.
But the Wii was, I just hated feeling tied to it. You know, I liked the motion controls. Some games utilized it really well. Red Steel did really good.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about Red Steel.
Yeah, dude, Red Steel was awesome. Metroid Prime 3 did some cool stuff.
Yep.
The on-the-rail Resident Evil shooters, Resident Evil 4. But some of the things that I hated were some games you could hook up the GameCube controller and use, which I loved.
Yeah,
But
or the classic controller.
yes, and the classic controller you had to tie into your Wii remote. So it felt like you were sitting in a hospital bed with a certain attachment. Yeah.
The Wii catheter.
Yeah, the Wii.
The Wii theater.
The Wii, yeah. You got a kidney stone? We're going to put this Wii remote, you know.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, we're not going to talk about that exam.
The urethra.
Ooh. That's clever.
That was a good one.
I'm going to... Nice.
That's a weird joke.
That was... weird taste in my mouth now. Anyways. Also, Reggie started making an appearance with the Nintendo DS and the Wii. My Body is Ready. He was in every direct presentation. He's retired now. But... kind of side note, I highly recommend you read his book, Disrupting the Game. I've read through it twice. This guy is an inspiration to me. I mean, it talks about everything he went through as a kid, to the corporations that he ran, such as Pizza Hut, and it was either VH1 or MTV that he did.
Really?
Oh, yeah, the guy's done so much. Highly recommend the book, though. If you want to learn about the creation of the Wii and the DS and how they got it out there and how Iwata and Shigeru Miyamoto would, you know, discuss those types of things. Very cool. So enough of the Wii. Let's hit 360. So 360 came out. Jeez. Big time.
Yeah. That was... I don't know. That was something magical about the whole beginning of the 360 era. Everybody was getting one. I got mine for Christmas. And actually, no, it was my birthday. It was the DS that I got for Christmas. The 360 I got for my birthday. But yeah, I remember because I didn't have an OG Xbox. So I was jumping from GameCube to the 360.
Ooh,
and even
that's
graphically, that was a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Some of my first games we definitely had Halo 3 because I remember that was the one with the weird 4 console link cable and you could buy extensions for these things.
Yeah.
So we would take our TVs and our 360s over to my friend Nick's house and we just had like a TV in every room, had all the consoles linked up, having huge 16-person.
Yeah,
I think it was up to 16.
It was big, man. Yeah, 360. Got it for Christmas. I still have my Halo 3 launch collector's edition. Super cool.
Can you put it on?
No, you can't. Unfortunately. But yeah, 360 was great. Like I said, I went through 2 consoles. Loved all the games for it. And it lasted forever. I mean, what? It went to 2013?
That sounds right. Yeah, because that was when we got GTA 5, I think.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the last, or the last big game on that generation.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, just a great system. Great games. Let's talk about, real quick, Connect. Move.
Oh man,
PlayStation Move and Connect.
So I had previously had the PlayStation Eye on the PS2, and going from that to the Connect was also night and day. the Kinect was really pretty cool, and they're still used a lot in like the DIY motion capture community
Yeah, yeah.
because those Kinect cameras were so good, and they had like the built-in depth calculation or whatever, and the tracking software for Kinect was so good.
I will say a lot of people were, oh, it's just another Wii or it's blah blah blah. Honestly, the Kinect is completely different than the Wii. I mean, you're using your full body for it. So that was, to me, I said, okay, that's different. Microsoft really needs to utilize that, or maybe make a new Banjo-Kazooie game or something kids could really get into to play with it. Let's talk about PlayStation 3. All right, so PlayStation 3, I got mine later because here's some like negatives about 7th gen. This was the first gen where it was like, okay, you need internet to download or install or play online, buy stuff. So I was having a ton of issues with 361 Red Ring, but 2 connecting. You used to have to buy Xbox Live in a box and have to have an adapter and like all this stuff to get online.
Oh, I forgot about that network adapter.
Yeah, but then PlayStation came out and it's like, hey, we have a browser and you can just hop on and wirelessly connect all this stuff, right? But it was slow. Very, very, very slow. I mean, you put a disc in and it would take 3 to 4 hours to install God of War 1 or whatever on your system. So 360 was really quick. I had quicker installations with the 360. But PlayStation 3, got mine, bought Resistance, bought God of War 3, beat pretty much every game on it because it just was nice. It was a fancy system. It was sleek.
It was fancy, and it had a ridiculously matching price tag at launch. Remember that? $600?
Yeah. And now
That's
I bought
crazy.
the 360 or PlayStation 3 when the Slim came out. I got a Slim, which was
they were much cheaper by then.
much cheaper. You didn't have to worry about them overheating as well because PlayStation 3 had yellow light of death. And but just the chargeable controller, everything. It was just nice. It was like, man, I'm getting a really good bundle or whatever. But let's talk about this PlayStation Move. Okay, so the Wii equivalent on PlayStation. Did you have a Move?
So not until I got my PSVR headset.
Ah, okay.
Then I had to get a couple moves. Yeah. Which is really interesting the way that they repurposed those for the PS4.
I feel like if the Move just came out with VR, it would have been way cooler than being like, hey, here's a Wii for PlayStation.
Yeah. The problem was that they didn't have a joystick on the ones with the colored orbs. And so it makes control on the PSVR really weird, which is why they introduced the new controller for PSVR 2.
Yeah.
That actually has joysticks. Because I know moving on Skyrim, like you hold down one of the triggers and you like aim the controller which direction you want to go.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. You get a little bit used to it. But the PS3 was also the first console with HDMI.
Yes, and that was a big difference.
Yeah, I remember, because this is a continuation of the story earlier. My brother-in-law had the PS3. I had a 360. I was playing on a CRT with the weird component cable. And I remember he finally, I guess they had moved into their house, or a new house, and he bought an HD TV. And I helped him hook up his PS3. And I think I had bought him Assassin's Creed for Christmas because I had it on the 360. And I had gotten him Assassin's Creed. And I just wanted to be there when he booted it up for the first time. And seeing the original Assassin's Creed, which was absolutely top of the game back then, like that was cutting edge, graphics, everything. Seeing that in HD for the first time, I was blown away by it. And it was only 1080. It was only 1080p at that point.
Yeah, yeah. My cousin, so I bought my PS3 later on down the road, but I did like the PS5. Some of my friends had it, but my cousin still has his original, like the OG PlayStation 3.
The fat one?
Found it at a pawn shop for like $400, and his mom bought it for him for Christmas, which she's like, kind of my aunt, kind of not. And I got to go over there the night he had it. And it was really cool. I remember being like, man, this is next gen.
Next gen.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that marked that generation, because now, like, we're getting some improvements. Obviously, we have ray tracing now. We've got, with Unreal Engine 5, the models and everything are a lot better looking, but it's still incremental. Like, the fact that sometimes you can put a PS4 game and a PS5 game side by side, and there's not that huge of a difference. But that jump from 6th gen to 7th gen,
oh, dude,
was massive. It was like the jump from Nintendo to Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Or from Super Nintendo to 64 almost. That's an unfair comparison because that's 2D to 3D, but still was such a huge jump.
You even had Super Nintendo had some 3D games like Star Fox, you had Star Fox and even
3DS.
Yeah, but
Mario Kart.
still that was like an intro to it, and then seeing Mario all polygon was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've already asked you this or not. We'll tackle DS and PSP, but out of the home consoles, which one was your favorite?
That's a toss-up. Number one, I didn't have a PS3. I hated the controller. It felt too small.
It was smaller, yeah.
I like the PS5. PS4 was fine, but I really like the PS5 because they're getting bigger finally. The 360, hands down, best controller that was ever created. I still have one that I use in my computer sometimes. It's an old wired 360 controller. And up until the DS5, I used that thing for 10, 11 years.
Nice.
360 for a lot of the games, but I have to say the Wii probably had the most longevity. Like, I still have it hooked up. I still play it. I don't even have a 360 anymore.
Yeah.
But I think the Wii still holds up.
Oh, yeah.
While the 360 probably wouldn't quite as much.
I agree with you totally, because I tried playing Oblivion this morning. Ugh.
Yeah.
It was tough. I can go back to Skyrim, but Oblivion, it was hard. But my favorite, as much as I love the 360, I'm going with the Wii as well, because there are still days I want to play Wii Sports.
Yeah.
That was
Wii Bowling is
which,
still
in
one
this
of the
book,
best games of all time.
In this book, you know what? I am going to do a giveaway of this book, or I'm going to buy one, and we're going to do this. Yeah, you learn about how they weren't going to package Wii Sports. They were going to charge Wii Sports with the Wii.
Honestly, the smartest thing they ever did was packaging it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, look now at the Mario Kart 8 Switch bundle. That still sells out every Black Friday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got to go with the Wii. I remember me and my brother really wanted one, and we were building a house on our land. And when I say building a house, we were moving another mobile home onto our land.
Nice.
So we were working really hard with my dad, and my dad was like, hey, if you work really hard, which was cutting down massive East Texan pine trees, about 40 to 50, he was like, if you guys can do this, I'll buy you guys a Wii. And so me and my brother worked day and night, and we got a Wii, and it was a lot of fun. And just good memories, and like you, I still have one. And I need to hook it up and play.
And it's the OG too. Like, this thing runs. It's classic Nintendo. It's gonna run forever.
And it was just Apple, like Mac or something,
with the white
and the blue
glossy,
light, and just really cool. Let's talk real quick about DS and PSP. I had both. Loved the DS. I loved the PSP until it got stolen. So that's my story with that.
So my story with the DS. I want to go more into the PSP getting stolen thing.
Yeah.
So I got the DS for Christmas, and along with Super Mario 64 DS.
Yeah.
And like, I was pumped up for this thing. I was there at GameStop when we bought it at the mall, and we took it home, and he's like, well, try it out for just a few minutes, make sure everything works right, and then we're going to box it back up, and you have to wait till Christmas. And I think, if I remember right, the DS had come out. What was that? It was like October or November. There was a good couple of months before Christmas.
Oh my!
And then all of December. And
that's horrible.
I almost wish that I had never tried it, because it was so revolutionary at the time with the touch screen, the 2 screens, and I got to play a little bit of Mario, a little bit of PictoChat. But I knew where it was.
Yeah.
And so immediately after church, I would run to the house, I would go grab it, and then I would go in their bathroom and close the door, and I would play it for like 10 or 15 minutes every single Sunday. And then I would box it back up, and then I would go put it back where it was supposed to be.
Oh, that is awesome.
And so I played that thing every week leading up to Christmas because like I wanted to play it so bad it made me sick to my stomach. I don't know that I've ever wanted anything that bad since.
The DS rocked. I didn't have the OG DS, but I got the DS Lite, the slim white one, for a birthday one year.
I think I have one of those around.
Yeah, I think you do, actually. And
this bad boy?
Yep, that one right there. And had Resident Evil on it.
Yeah.
Had some of my favorite Castlevania. Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow was so good. Phantom Hourglass, Mario. Just really good games. And then the cool thing was 3DS. Backwards compatible with it. And you could play Game Boy Advance.
Yep. And the other thing is, number one, PictoChat. Because being a middle schooler at the time, me and all my friends would be in class, and this was pre-cell phone. Pre-cell phone. It wasn't as common back then. I think I had a track phone that you had to buy minutes for at the time. But anyways, we would sit in class and we would send notes and pictures. That's how we passed notes, was with the DS. But it also was when you could, if one person had a copy of Mario Kart, everybody else could download it and play multiplayer.
That's right. Yep.
So you only one person had to have the game. Same for, I think Metroid allowed that. The multiplayer.
The Metroid Prime Hunters. Yeah. Good game.
Yep. And then a few others, but yeah. Oh, the DS was such a good console too.
Yeah. So let's jump into PSP and then we'll end the episode. So I got, actually, this is crazy. I got a PSP when we got our Wii. So we got both. There was a deal Toys R Us was doing, like, spend X amount of money on a system, get one half off. So I think I got a PSP for like at least $100 with a couple games. I liked it. It was fun. I loved more of the hardware, having a music player. Like that was my MP3 player, was the PSP. Watching some movies on it. I mean, I grew up in East Texas. I didn't have internet. So until I was mid 360 Wii era. So, but yeah, so my story with the PSP, went to go eat at this place called Cheddar's and had some of my stepmother's kids. She has an older daughter and she was dating a crackhead at the time. And we went to Cheddar's and I had my PSP, set it under my dad's car seat. We go in to eat, and the crackhead guy she was with, his name was Chris, by the way. I'm not a crackhead. It's Chris with a C. It's always the ones with the C's that, no, I'm kidding. So he was like, hey, I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. I need a smoke break. And he was like, I left my keys in your car. Can I have your keys? So my dad gave him the keys, and he went out. And he didn't come back for a while. And it was about an hour, almost 2 hours. And then he came back and was like, oh, I just, had some anxiety. I went and walked the strip behind Cheddar's. And behind Cheddar's, there was a strip of businesses, like a strip mall or whatever. And there was a GameStop over there. Well, we finish eating and we get back into the van. My PSP's gone. And instantly, I was like, this guy stole my PSP. So I looked everywhere and everywhere and everywhere. And he had the balls to turn around and be like, yeah, I saw somebody. I think somebody broke into your van. I think somebody got into your van and stole it. And I forgot to, he confessed about not locking my dad's van back or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I tried to, blah, 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 and all this stuff. No, he totally took my PSP and pawned it at GameStop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Dang crackheads.
That's where my PSP went. And I had
That's a really depressing story.
I had just gotten the Castlevania Dracula X. It was really cool Castlevania remake, and if you found a certain level, you could play Symphony of the Night handheld and take it with you, and it was gone. So
that's really depressing.
That's where we will. Well, what was your experience with PSP? Did you have a PSP?
That's a low. I did not have a PSP. I didn't have any of the PlayStation handhelds. Because at the time, I was a 360 kid and Wii. And so I didn't really care for PlayStation or whatever was going on over there. Not until the PS4. So I would totally skipped out on Sony that era. And they had a lot of handhelds over that time period.
Yeah.
The PSP, the PS Go, and then the Vita.
And then the Vita, yeah.
Which the Vita was, I think, fairly early on in the PS4 era.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Yep.
Crazy
stuff. Well, that wraps up this episode. Be sure to check us out every Thursday on YouTube. And
remember, it's dangerous to go alone.
See you guys.